crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here to share two different cards with basically two looks at how you can use the same background stamp. And I'm starting with some products from Seaside Stampin Ink. They sell a real high quality glossy cardstock, and I've been having a lot of fun with that because it allows me to get some use out of my alcohol inks, which I had bought a number of years ago when I first started stamping, and haven't used them very much, and so I'm excited to be able to try them out again. So if that's something that you have in your stash, this gloss cardstock is a lot of fun. To start off with, I have a ink blending tool from Tim Holtz and some of the alcohol inks. You have to use a little piece of felt on top of the ink blending tool as opposed to the foam that you might use when you use distress ink. And you don't need the special felt, any felt will do. I'm putting a few drops of each of the colors. I've been told that the metallics are quite strong, and so sometimes you'll want a few less drops of those, or they might overpower. And once I have some drops on there, I'm ready to start swiping it across my paper. I am purposely looking for those lines. And I don't, like, if I wanted to create a different blended look, you could take the same ink blender and you could pounce or swirl, and that will leave you with the ink looking in that swirl pattern or that pounce pattern. But for today's card, I wanted to create the effect of stripes, and so I'm just pulling it straight across until I feel like the card is pretty well covered. Then I want to show you one of the ways you can use these background stamps. Seaside Stampin Ink has a number of background stamps to choose from. Today I'm using the leaves background. Obviously there are a lot of other background stamps out there too, but I like some of their designs, and they're the perfect size for the front of a card, and usually they're not the kind of patterns that it matters which way your card is facing, and so that makes them a little bit more versatile. I'm taking some Hero Art shadow ink, and any dye ink will stamp on top of this gloss cardstock. You don't really need anything too special for it. Pigment inks, however, won't work, so be sure to choose a dye ink from your collection. And this is just colored stamping on top of the gloss cardstock. And when I stamp with a background stamp, I like to put the ink down, press my paper to the stamp, and then use a brayer. If you don't have a brayer, just running your hands along it will give a great impression as well. Gloss cardstock does take a little bit more time to dry, so that's something that you want to keep in mind as you continue to work. So once I have that background finished and dried, I'm ready to finish up my card, and I'm going to stamp one of the inspirational quote stamp sets, stamps from the stamp set. There's a bunch of different quotes there, but today I'm just using the friendship quote so that I will have more Happy Mail cards to send out. And as I was working on that, I thought of another fun way to use the same background stamp to get a different look, and I'll show that in just a bit. But first I'm going to show you how I colored the little cat. I wanted to add the scratched cat stamp set, or stamp from Seaside Stampin Ink, but since I was already using the gloss cardstock, I thought it'd be fun to use the same technique to color the cat. I showed this a little bit with my Yeti card last week, and I'm again adding some of the gray and then the snow cap, which is a sort of shimmery white. I want my cat to be mostly gray, but I do like the idea of a little bit of shimmer to make it stand out. And I started by using the same swiping motion, but I didn't like that because in real life, a cat wouldn't have those perfectly straight lines, perfectly striped lines in it. So I thought that I would mix it up a little bit by taking the ink blending tool and sort of pouncing it around to give a little bit of texture to make it look more like fur. Once I had that, I'm ready to add the cat. I'm just using the archival ink. I find that the archival ink from Ranger is one of the best inks to use. It just gives a really crisp impression. And I'm going to stamp a few of these because I know that I'm going to make at least two cards today. But this way I have some on hand for the future. And then again, I'm just going to let that dry and fussy cut it out. Because of the scratched, sketchy look of the cat, I decided to leave a little bit of a border around it because it would be a little bit more difficult to trim right to the edge. You would lose that scratchy effect. Now, for the second background, I'm going to make the card the same exact way, but I'm just showing you a different thing you can do with the background. Once you have your alcohol ink swiped on to a sheet of the glossy cardstock, instead of using ink, you can just spray some straight alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, onto the rubber stamp, and then allow your cardstock to sit in that for a while. Over time, it will start to pull up the alcohol ink. You don't really notice it at first. You definitely have to give it some time to dry, and it will basically sort of white out the areas, but not in a pure true white sort of way, but just kind of like a marked out way. It's just something a little bit different and fun to use with your stamping to get something kind of an unusual look. However, spraying alcohol on your rubber stamps could damage them over time, but if you wash them quickly, I think the damage would be very minimal. So definitely make sure that you rinse your stamp off before before too long. And so that's it for my 2 cards today. Just 2 looks at the same background stamp to show you can do some solid stamping with it, or this alcohol resist technique with alcohol inks on the gloss cardstock from Seaside Stampin Ink. I will leave you links and the names of all the stamp sets in the video description below in case you're interested in checking that out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, please subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching. Bye.